absolutely. That was crude. But before we get started on the US tax bill, let's quickly take a look at all the cues that we are going to be watching out. JSW Steel is going to report its Q4 numbers today. In terms of corporate action, we have JSW Steel, which is going to mull fundraising. Ashok Leyland board is expected to mull bonus issue, whereas Mahindra Life Spaces developers, that's going to trade ex-rights issue. Apart from that, Havells India, the shares are going to trade ex-dividend today. In terms of other events, we have the ECB chief economist, Philip Lane, who's going to speak later in the day.
Right, and the biggest headline, which is the moot point why all the markets reacted, is the US tax bill. US President Donald Trump's big beautiful tax bill, as US House of Representatives gives it a green signal out of the chamber on a narrow vote. The passage of bill a major victory for Republican leader who have spent nearly 2 months crafting it and the past 2 days making it last-minute changes. Democrats likewise are vehemently opposing the proposed steep cuts to the social safety net in order to pay for some of the tax cuts. Trump promised on the campaign trail last year about this bill, and now he is delivering on that. In fact, experts have already analyzed the impact, where the bill is expected to cost as many as 8,30,000 jobs and drive up bills and pollution emissions. For instance, under the reconciliation bill, tax credits for cleaner cars will end this year, with incentives for wind, solar and even nuclear energy projects scaled down and then eliminated by 2032. Experts are going as far as to say that the said bill could not come at a worse time when the inflation fears have been peaking. We at ET Now have collated a comprehensive impact analysis from the bill, which is now with the US Senate. Let's go across to my colleague Varun for all those details.
Well, so definitely the House has actually passed the Donald Trump's big beautiful tax bill, and actually if you look, all Democrats and 2 Republicans opposed the bill, otherwise it was passed. Now the bill actually, if you look, it will now go to the Senate, wherein the further changes are expected. But yes, the bill has been passed in the US House. Loosening of the guns rules, imposing earlier work requirement for Medicaid, and limit the further state expansions, and also add resources to deport around 1 million of undocumented immigrants annually. Now, if you look some of the key other components of the bill, it actually cuts 2 major safety nets, that is Medicaid and also the food stamps, and also it makes 2017 Trump's tax cut permanent for all individuals. It actually, there are certain tax provisions in the bills, like temporarily they have removed taxes on tapes, overtimes and car loan interest, and also it includes a temporary boost in the overall standard deduction. The SALT, I mean the state and local tax deduction, the cap has been now raised to around $30,000 from around $10,000. Additionally, if you look on the spending side, there is $150 billion of defense spending that comes into the bill, and it will also fund Donald Trump's Golden Dome plan. It also has $70 billion for border enforcement. And if you look at the total impact of this, on the US debt, it could be actually very high, because experts say that it could add around $3.8 trillion to the overall federal government's $36.2 trillion in debt over the next decade. And actually this bill looks to raise the overall debt ceiling by around $4 trillion to avoid a deficit. So yes, it is going to have an impact on the overall balance sheet of the Federal Bank, of the Federal Reserve, but definitely this bill has been now passed and it will go to the Senate, and actually it had an impact on the bond yields as well.
All right, thank you, Varun. Thank you so much for all those details on the US tax bill, which is now with the Senate. But let's move on and shift focus then. Finance ministers and central bank governors from the group of 7 democracies papered over their differences, pledging to address excessive imbalances in the global economy and saying they could increase sanctions on Russia. Now, the finance ministers and central bank governors said that there was a need for a common understanding of how non-market policies and practices undermine international security activity, economic security. Apart from that, the group also is considering increasing sanctions on Russia over the Ukraine conflict.
From G7, let's shift focus to Japan, where core inflation has accelerated to 3.5% in April, the highest in more than 2 years. The rise in prices bolstered by surging prices as the Bank of Germany considers pausing its rate hike posture to assess the impact of US tariffs. The core inflation figure was higher than expectations of 3.4%, marking it the highest level since January 2023.
Absolutely. Next up, we have latest from war-torn Gaza. Now, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's office said he spoke with President Trump following the murder of two Israel embassy staffers in Washington. On that call, amid rumors of a growing schism between the leaders of Netanyahu's failure to end Israel's war on Gaza, US President Trump has reportedly backed Israel's war goals in the Palestinian enclave.